I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we are constantly running from project to project on our little homestead. This weekend is no different. We just got our seed put in the ground to start forming our pasture, and rain is on the way. Very needed rain. So we've got to go out there and we've got to drag this soil so we can make more ground contact with our seeds so that we can get our pasture in a good spot. Otherwise, our money's wasted. It is a busy time in our little homestead. You can probably hear that the farm next to us is actually picking cotton right now. So that's that background noise that you hear. So everything's getting picked. The soybeans were picked, cotton's getting picked right now. So lots and lots of things that are going on. But for us, it's also super busy because we're trying to beat the weather. Now, if you didn't see our video before where we just put out and we showed you how we're trying to rejuvenate our pastures and move from fields that have been crop farmed for generations into pastures that we're going to use to raise our regenerative livestock kind of model, check that out. I'll post it in the link below in the description. I'll also drop a card above. But that's some of the things that we're doing. That is that video on how we did that. And a lot of that is really around the fact that we're trying to do rye for the winter, and then we're gonna try to do the fescue and the clover so that they'll begin growing in the spring as well. That'll be a good base for all the things that we're gonna raise on pasture. Now, in order to do that, we've got some other steps that we've got to take. We've got to get out there and drag it. So we got the seed put down, and I was lucky in the fact that I was able to borrow and or use my brother. He was happy enough to do it for us, but he was able to help us. We got some seed put down with his tractor because we don't have a tractor, and now we need to get it so there's more soil contact. Right now, the seed's just sitting on top. We didn't have a seed drill, so we couldn't get the seed deep down into the soil. So now we have to figure out a way to get some ground contact so that seed will grow and it won't just be food for the birds or won't spring up and then kind of die off quickly because it doesn't have a root system. See here, that's the rye seed. There's fescue, and that tiny little seed right there. Clover. Now, because we don't have a tractor on the farm, that's going to make this a little interesting to try to pull off. We're going to have to get creative on how we do it. Now, we have a workhorse on our farm, and that is our little Ranger. It's a Polaris Ranger. We use it for everything, and I'm telling you, when that thing was gone for a few weeks into the repair shop, it was a huge blow to us. But we're going to have to figure out a way to use our Ranger today and make that ground contact in kind of a way that if we had a tractor, we could use some implements on that, but we don't. So we're gonna have to figure out something we can pull behind that UTV in order to make that ground contact. Essentially just stir up the dirt, knock the seeds under, so you're basically bringing some of the dirt up and leveling it all off so it covers some of the seeds, and that will allow us hopefully to get a good germination. Now, why is that important right now? It's important because we're about to get some rain. Now, we have not gotten any measurable rain since September. That's when that little tropical depression came through and it gave us a decent amount of soaking rain, but we haven't had really any rain at all. It's gone weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks without any measurable rain. And so trying to get seed to germinate without water is a big challenge. It's obviously not gonna happen. So we've got some hog panels left over from when we were setting up our hog shelter area. And we've got our Idaho pasture pigs on pasture now. These were left over. They are 16 feet wide. So we had started thinking about using an old mattress to try to level this stuff out, but it would have taken me 10,000 years to do. And so we're gonna try to pull this thing behind the UTV in order to level all this stuff out. Now, in theory, this should work pretty well. It's just gonna knock that top off and kind of get everything mixed up so that hopefully we get some soil covering those seeds. But I've never tried it before, and so this could get a little interesting. I was gonna use an old mattress, and that has a little bit more weight to it, but it was just so narrow that trying to do it with that mattress was gonna take me a really, really long time. This was that old mattress that we were gonna use, but again, the more I looked at it, this is just sitting on our barn. It would have worked, but it is just so narrow in comparison to that 16-foot hog panel. This would have taken me forever and a day to get it done. So this would be good for if you wanted to pull behind it and like level a lane or something like that, because each one of those wires kind of pulls and it hits the rocks and kind of knocks the top off without taking too much. So we've actually used this several times for leveling things like a lane, but not for this. And so my brother actually came up with this idea. I'm very grateful because I probably wouldn't have thought of it on my own, at least not right away. So I'm gonna try to squeak out here and get it done really fast before the day gets away from us. Here in the fall and winter, it just gets dark so fast that I don't have a lot of time after work to do it, but I'm gonna try to jump right on it. So if I'm talking fast today, it's because I've got so much stuff to try to get done. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing out, and then we're gonna try to figure out how we're gonna hook it up to our UTV. All right, so we've got a hog panel out here now. First thing we're gonna try to do is gonna lay this thing out. Then we're gonna try to find more or less where center of it is and get the chain evenly spaced. I've got some hooks that I'll hook into the chain. Then we're gonna take the chain and we're gonna wrap it around a hook that's on the hitch of the UTV. And that's gonna give us the opportunity, hopefully, to not have this thing sliding. We'll be able to pull it around as we see fit. All right, you can kind of see the layout here that we've got going. I got it hitched around that hook, and then I've also got it kind of pulling against the two balls that are on this rotatable hitch. So we'll see exactly how that works. So first impression is it could work, but I don't think it is working. I think the problem is, if you go back here, you can see, and here's the outside edge. I think it's kicking up some of the loose dirt. But the challenge is that, so these were the tire tracks, the tractor tracks from it. And so, I don't know, you can probably see that some of this, like right through here, is loosened up some, compared to say over here where the tracks are a little more pronounced. So, you know, there's a decent, there's a decent amount in here. Could it work? Probably. But I'm probably going to make a couple of passes. I've been trying to think about this and what we might be able to do to make it better, because we've got a lot of field here to go around. So just trying to think this through a little bit. So I've been giving this some thought, and I think the problem is what I was worried about in the beginning. This thing is so light. It's nice that it's 16 feet wide, but it's not got any weight to it. And so it doesn't want to sit down really far on the ground, so it's not kicking up a lot of the dust. I may have to do this anyway, because I'm trying to think of something that is large enough that I could lay on it that it might work to give it enough weight. It doesn't need a lot of weight, just needs a little bit more weight, but it needs to be evenly spaced across that 16 feet, or at least most of it, to make it work. So I've got a couple of metal tubes that are just too short. They're heavy, but they're not long enough. And so I think I might try to see if I can find a piece of lumber that is long enough that I can lay on that has some weight to it, that I can strap down to it and see if that works. But for now, I'm gonna make a few more passes and just kind of see how it's working. If you guys are enjoying this, if you like seeing what we're doing, kind of this permaculture method, please click that subscribe button. We would love to have you follow along with us. All right, now this is working much better. It's still not perfect, but I think, you know, it's working much better than it did before. You can actually see over here where I drug it, and it actually made lines kind of where I was pulling through here. And if you look above, I think if you look in front of me, it's actually easier to see. So you can see a lane here where I actually drug, and then over here I haven't yet. So this is directly in front of the UTV right now. So you can see that first swath actually, it definitely moved the dirt around. Hopefully that's going to cover up some of the seeds, will allow us to get what we need to get done. Now I've got to go ahead and get it done. I think I've got a plan now.
We need a plan of attack.
I have a plan. Attack.
But I think this is going to work. I don't want it to be too heavy so it gets caught on stuff and winds up digging into the ground too much. I just want to get that top layer kind of stirred up so it covers up the seed. I think we're there with this. I may have to make a couple of passes. I do notice that on the harder ground, you know, where there's just more clay in the soil and it's less sandy, that obviously makes a difference. That doesn't move as easily. It's also where I typically see more of the, what we would call dirt clogs down here in the south. But where I see more of that, those clumps of dirt where it's harder clay, it's not breaking that up as much. I may just have to make a couple of extra turns on that. So let me get this done before I lose all of my daylight. So I got everything finished. Everything is drug at this point. Now, hopefully when it rains, we can get this field started and moving into pasture as quickly as possible. We need this rain. We're hoping for the Thanksgiving holiday is gonna bring some rain around that week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is what we're hoping for. So this is gonna transform into a lush, awesome place for all of our animals to start grazing. So we're gonna have, this is gonna be the mainstay, right? This is gonna be kind of that center point for everything that we're doing in this space. Now, everything we're trying to do here is to honor the legacy of our family. This property is all owned within the family today. And so our goal here is to transform it from the legacy crop farm that it was before and has been up until this year, and move it into more of a regenerative pasture-based system, similar to what is used in, say, like Joel Salatin's environment. That is the goal here, to try to transform this. We're gonna have sheep on this, potentially. We're gonna have our hogs on this. We're gonna definitely have our chickens on it. And so the goal is even maybe one day to work up to cattle. And we're gonna paddocks this out. So stay tuned. We've got more on this journey. But the first thing is we gotta get the pasture running. Then we're gonna set up paddocks, and then we're gonna start that process. So stay tuned. If you like this material, if you like the things that we're doing, please subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you along for this journey. We hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time on the Purpose Driven Homestead.